Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we're back on a Friday night. That international break there, it was long, it was tedious. Usually, I've not been that bored with watching Scotland recently, but yeah, when the competitive action seems to be very different when it comes to friendlies. But thankfully, it's over. There's no more international breaks from the end of the season. We are on the home straight. There are 8 league games to go, and we're still in the Scottish Cup as well. There is a double still on the table. We're down to the serious business. It's squeaky bum time, Fergie time, whatever you want to say it is. But yeah, we will be here for it on Friday nights for the next few weeks, obviously, as we run in towards the end of the season. Myself and Liam with the usual Friday service. And yes, Canada's favourite. He's not necessarily Greg Taylor's favourite, but Liam, how are you tonight, sir?
Good, man. Oh, I hate these weekends, like with the international break. Like, I try and organise the Scotland games here, and even watching that one was dismal as well. It's just Stevie Clark starting to look like Stevie Clark again. I think we dodged a bullet with him.
Yes.
Doesn't look the best team, does he? Anyway, that was it. And then I just looking forward to watching Celtic again. Honestly, it just didn't seem to be a lot of news. I wasn't as jumped up in the quotes or going to listen to some of the other podcasts as I usually am in international break. This time it was more like, just get the football on, because they're only going to do it in the park, all the talk, all this and that, and they've done nothing to sort of like chill me out as far as thinking this team's going to, all right, this 2 weeks is going to galvanise them and that. It's like, oh, fuck, man, you don't know what you're going to get. And so anyway, yeah, that's what I'm, Phil. How you doing, pal?
Hi. I'm absolutely fine, mate. Absolutely fine. I'm glad to be back because, yeah, it's been a long 2 weeks. It's felt really long, and it's been very typical of Celtic season. Whenever we seem to be, we're turning the corner here, a wee bit of momentum, an international break comes and slows everything down. But as I say at the top of the show there are no more till the end of the season. This is it. 8 cup finals, and a real cup final potentially still on the table. So you're looking at a maximum of 10 games still to go. But yes, every game matters massively, and it starts this weekend on Sunday against Livingston at Almond Vale. Bit of a sticky wicket for us over the last few seasons. We have obviously won recently there, but yes, there was a bit of a hoodoo at the Tony Macaroni. But yeah, I'll be talking about that tonight. But of course, before we go any further, a couple weeks I've done this, I might be a wee bit rusty. But remember, folks, do all that good stuff that helps out the Bhoycie Bus channel. Obviously, hit that like button. Helps out with the old algorithm, CSC. Obviously, subscribe if you've not done so yet. Our target is to try and get to 5,000 before the end of the season as possible. We're not too far off at the moment, but if you haven't done so far, you want to keep the bus in your life a little bit longer, hit subscribe, and of course hit that bell notification. You'll be notified when the bus is on the road. Get involved in our comments section tonight, as many people already are doing, and obviously we'll bring comments up during the show and interact with you guys. And yeah, obviously you can share the link of the Bhoycie Bus on whatever social media platform is your thing nowadays. Twitter, X as it's called, whatever, Instagram, Facebook, MySpace, is that still a thing? Bebo, who knows, whatever you share it on, go ahead. And piesports.com, head over there and let them know that the bus sent you. Use that code BUS1888. You get 12.5% off your order. And with all that said and done, all the good stuff out of the way, yes, Liam, let's get down to it, because yes, it is a Friday feeling. What we usually do, of course, is look forward to the game at the weekend. As I say, it's Livingston, a team we played just a few weeks ago at Celtic Park in a Scottish Cup game. Not the most convincing of performances. We did make a bit heavy work of it, but we did get through in the end. It was a cup tie. All that matters is winning the game and getting through, which we did. Of course, they did cause a few problems that day. Maybe just the dynamic was different. With it being a cup game, Livi were like, well, we can't play for a draw. So they had a bit of a go at us, and obviously they caused a few issues. But this is league action we're going into, and it's on their park. And, well, park used loosely, because it's a bit of an abomination, that one. And, of course, that is always the elephant in the room whenever we go to play these types of teams. Livingston, Kilmarnock, the plastic pitches. Of course, I believe there is a vote that is coming or is going to be happening about getting rid of plastic pitches in the Scottish Premiership. But for the time being, they are here. So whenever this fixture rolls around, Liam, it's one that I hate so much. One, Livingston are not a very good team to watch anyway. Don't particularly have much time for David Martindale, particularly this season, where every time he does a press conference, it's always, oh, poor little me and my team, Livingston. Everyone feels sorry for us. Yeah, I say this plastic pitch concerns me because it causes injuries. And Liam, in case you've been living under a rock, or anyone out there's been living under a rock, Celtic and injuries have gone hand in hand this season. Is this the fixture that we need right now, just before Ibrox next week?
I think you'll see what the mood is when you see how big Matt O'Reilly's shin guards are. You know, he usually wears those look like a playing card. Going to have the full length ones on tomorrow, because this is like the pure definition of agricultural footballers they're playing tomorrow, right? These are like guys that are just sort of like slung into a jersey and shoved out the door, knuckles scraping on the way into the park. I do, and they're no fright to take a liberty here and there as well. So I don't know. Is it? You know, it's going to start a battle, and it depends how quick we can take the battle out of them. And the best way to take the battle out of them is goals. So I think Brendan's got to figure out, okay, what do we do? Do we go with Kyogo and that, and we see if we can try and fire in a couple of quick goals and that, and just try and overwhelm them, the shock and the awe, the way Ange's teams used to do? Or do we try and run out and battle them as well, and then try and play them at their game? But you never know. You could end up with cards and all that. I mean, big Adam, my dad, like, he looks like he jumps up. He's quick to anger by the looks of it. You know, I don't think that will be overlooked by Livingston. So I think it's a game for the battlers tomorrow, and maybe, all right, let's see what Kyogo, Kun, and Maeda can do up front, and then everybody else. You know, I think you got to go with your battle tested, see who can fight tomorrow. I think they're going to try and wear down the defenders. What do you think? Do you think this would be a good game for Lagerbielke or New Rocket, Phil?
That is a $1 million question, mate, because Brendan Rodgers clearly doesn't rate them that highly. Nawrocki, he's had injury problems. Lagerbielke, I mean, the way he's been managed since January in particular, with the whole, he was about halfway out the door. Then it was like, oh, no, you need to stay to cover for injuries. We've had injuries since then, and he still doesn't really get a look in. A couple of fleeting substitute appearances. It's just a bit of a mystery for him. At this stage, for me, I don't think Brendan can afford to take chances like that. He's got to stick with the guys that he's been playing all season, really. For a guy like Nawrocki or Lagerbielke coming out, unless it's absolutely wholly necessary where we have another injury crisis, and heaven forbid we don't at this stage of the season, I think that's the only way they'll get any consistent game time. Otherwise, I think the two of them are going to be substitutes, and the starting centre-back pairing from now to the end of the season will be Scales and Carter Vickers, I think. But yeah, the Lagerbielke scenario is going to be one of those ones we look back on this season, because I think now he'll definitely go in the summer. He tried to leave in January. They tried to move him out in January. He didn't obviously go for the reasons I said. I think he'll be away, but one of those ones we'll look back in seasons to come, look back at this one and go, God, remember that guy Lagerbielke and how he was treated? Because that was weird. And saying Nawrocki with injury problems he's had this season, because in fact, remember the initial injury problem that he got that's kept him out for most of the season started at Kilmarnock in the League Cup on the plastic pitch. So again, plastic pitches, always a little bit of a concern. So for me, the centre-back pairing is going to be Carter Vickers and Scales at the moment. And of course, Carter Vickers playing does bring its own risks as well on this surface, because again, players coming back off of a bit of a sketchy injury record this season. Oh, plastic pitches are not good. Remember, Siminovic was always rested for games on plastic pitches because his knees couldn't handle it. So, but the way things are, we've got to go with our strongest team at the same time. So Brendan's in a bit of a conundrum where it's like, I've got guys who've got a few niggling injuries. This pitch is not going to help that at all, but I'm in a position where I've got to go with my strongest team. I've got to be playing the best I can play out there and take no chances. So for me, I don't see Nawrocki or Lagerbielke getting any starts unless it is wholly necessary with who's available.
But you imagine Sweden and Poland would both have a lot of plastic pitches. Like Alistair Johnson, I'm sure, is really comfortable on a plastic pitch, because plenty of them here in Canada, especially Montreal and Toronto. So he's played in a plastic pitch. The Japanese boys probably have as well. So there might be, Legia and the teams in that league and that. I'm sure there's a few plastic pitches there, just given the idea where Poland is, right, and Sweden as well. So I don't know. It's like he's got to be cagey with this one. It's like we've got the talent to be able to beat them no matter who we put out there, and it's the things can we match them physically, and we should be able to do that as well too. And we should be able to beat them with tactics, and we should beat them just by the fact that we're wearing a green and white jersey and they're not. You know, like all the optics, all these sort of things. Like no matter who we put out there, should be able to beat this team. You know, and so I think maybe Brendan does have to be cagey and look and say, okay, well, Carter Vickers, well, let's not start him. But, you know, he always is that, you know, that shite he talks about the most important team is the one who finishes the game. You know, that might be the thing there, whereas we might not need him. We might be able to blow these guys. If you can get the team motivated, if you can get the right team out there, it's going to overwhelm them. And because all the things I just listed, we should overwhelm them.
Yeah.
You know, we can be cagey with this one. Maybe Kyogo doesn't come on unless we need him. Maybe CCV doesn't come on unless we need him.
Yeah, in an ideal world, that's what we would want. Because this one next week is so big. You know, obviously what's going to happen at Ibrox next Sunday. So, yeah, it's massive. It's all, everything's pointing to that. All roads lead to that game. But yeah, we've got to go over this hurdle first. But I think one of the things that we need to start with, really, when we're looking at the team, usually we go through the team positions by positions on the Friday feeling. But let's start with the guy who's not on the park, who will, of course, he was very much in the news, Brendan Rodgers. He obviously had his hearing with the Beaks this week. And, yeah, he got a 2-game suspension with one a suspended sentence basically to the end of the season. So it's like one game he will be in the stands, which will be the Livingston game. He will be on the sidelines at Ibrox next week, providing he doesn't have some mad outburst after the Livingston game. Hopefully nothing like that happens. But yeah, in the end, was that were you expecting that to be the outcome, Liam? And how much of a difference do you think it's going to make?
Yeah, I don't know. Brendan hasn't came across particularly animated or decisive or like, you know, just, you know, like it doesn't. Yeah, I've not seen him. And again, you're at the games. You could tell me, Phil, was like he's not the guy that's sort of like managing on the park the way Postecoglou did, or the way Martin O'Neill did. You know, like he was tracking, you know, like the shouters and all that. And so I don't know how much a difference it'll make. You know, this is a team that, I don't know, they don't seem to be motivated by like a Neil Lennon type or something. We've lost a lot of the type of players. They're more disciplined to run their channels and play their patterns and whatever they're being challenged to do or assigned, you know, what their assignments are and that, you know, and then hopefully something magic will happen. So I don't think it'll be a big difference for us. I think this team, there are, you know, most of them are internationals that are playing. So they all know how to play under different coaches, different systems and that. And, you know, again, it's fucking Livingston, man. You know, we should have, enough to do this. That's me doing my little Neil Lennon speech, but he's right, you know, he's right. So.
No, he is, although somebody did point out in the chat earlier on that this could finally be the season that we get rid of Livingston, and I think many fans within the Scottish Premiership have been waiting for this moment for the last 5 or 6 years. But apparently, if Raith Rovers come up, they've got a plastic pitch at Starks Park, so you get rid of one, you replace it with another. But I feel like Raith Rovers might be a bit more of I don't know, might be a better team to play against in terms of more open play. Livingston have very much got a very particular style, shall we say. Agricultural, as you said earlier on, is probably the best way to describe it. But yeah, this could be the season we finally get rid of them. We should be getting rid of them because they are miles adrift and we shouldn't have too many problems against them. And also, people in the chat might correct me here, but I believe that Brendan Rodgers, we're having a ban for the Livingston game. Does that also mean that he can't be in the dressing room for like team talks at this before the game and halftime and whatnot? Because I know there's been bans like that in the past for managers where they're not even allowed like in the dressing room. I don't know if that's the case with this one, because again, when you think about that, then going to Ibrox for next week and he is available, if that's the case, then that's huge. Because initially when I thought him being on the sideline, the way we've played this season, the football's been regressing as the season's been going on. Would Brendan Rodgers' presence on the sideline make a huge difference at Ibrox? But if that's the case, that you know he wouldn't be allowed in the dressing room, because I know that can be part of the ban. But again, I don't know if that applies to this one. Then it's huge. Then he can be there because obviously, you know, right before going out there on that park next week, you know, you need been rousing team talk, and I'd imagine Brendan Rodgers is pretty good at that. His man management skills cannot be debated, I think, when it comes to galvanising a player, making them feel 10 feet tall, essentially. So that could be crucial for next week. But of course, we'll need to deal with that. And we need to try and, do it one game at a time, Liam. So obviously, say Livingston comes first when you go over this hurdle. But yeah, I say defence, we've already had to look at with Carter Vickers, and I say Scales would probably be the centre back pain. But I do agree with your point. We should, even if we did play in the Bhoycie, we should have more than enough to be beating Livingston. We really should, especially at this stage now where the players can see the prize in front of them, what's ahead. So how much more motivation do they need, really? It's like, this is it. We're now down to 8 league games to go. We're still in the Scottish Cup. So it is on the table. The double is there. I think the best way to describe it right now, in a way a lot of Celtic fans may be thinking with the way this season's panned out at times, a double, even though it sounds improbable, it is not impossible. Celtic are well capable of doing this, even though the way things have been going recently, it's like, if you asked a few weeks ago, do you think Celtic will win the double? Most fans would just be like, not a chance. But I say it's still there. And I say improbable, but not impossible. So always keep that in mind, because you never know what lucky breaks could fall away here over the next few weeks. But they have to be so on it in every single game. This is not a time for passengers. But of course, when it comes to defence and passengers, Liam, we have to do it. It's the Friday night tradition now. We have to talk about them. We have to bring them up. We have to speak about it, because we don't have any other left-back choices. And no matter how hard we try, Liam, talk about Liam Scales, trying to will it to happen, moving Liam Scales into left-back, Brendan Rodgers ain't going to do it. So Greg Taylor will probably start. So, because again, there isn't any other options on the table at left-back. So that's a definite, really. I'd say it's a Friday night tradition, Liam. You've always got something to say about Mr. Taylor. So the floor is yours.
Well, Tony Ralston's available, right? I thought the last game, when he started substituting players, we were ahead, right? And you could tell we'd won that game. And he started substituting players on and off. He still gave Greg Taylor 90 minutes. That would have been a great chance to get Tony Ralston on and give him a bit more confidence in case he gets flung on in the middle of Ibrox, because Greg goes halfway, I don't know, hurt himself taking a throw in or something. So there's all sorts of, because he does tend to Ibrox a lot, He's had a few, right? Shoulders, things like that. So that would have been a good chance. So maybe there's a chance to sort of bleed him in as well, because if we're only counting on him and he's 90 minutes a game, as I said, we're in a battle tomorrow. So if Hatate comes on and you get Hatate, like Greg Taylor's role would have to change tomorrow if Hatate starts in front of him, because you can't have Greg Taylor overlapping Hatate to get the right wing to, I don't know what he was doing, like high five one of his mates or something like that, or just, just running the diagonals like right across the park. And then when the ball came back, he was nowhere to be seen. So I don't want to see Hatate rushing back to play left back, because we gave Greg Taylor the green light to be our most creative player. That's what I don't get about it. It's like, how does Rodgers not see this? How do you not see that? He loses the ball constantly. He's always passing it away. His throw-ins have become shite. He can't defend, but supposedly we gain something about Greg Taylor going forward. Where? Doesn't he dribble? Doesn't he cross? He has a shot now and again, but he's got Ryan Christie type averages, right? I mean, it's like shoot to, I don't know, but very few of them go in. And I don't know, just it'd be a better time in a physical game to play against Ralston, because again, we lose goals when it's back, and then people are now so consigned to it as like, oh, we've normalised it, that can't expect Greg Taylor to mark a guy that's 6 foot, out-header a guy 6'2", and that. Well, I expect my Celtic left back to. Why does it have to be Greg Taylor? That's all their expectations, and I've nothing personal against the boy, but it shows you everything that's mismanaged about this club, and it shows me why I think now Brendan Rodgers is a bit of a fraud. You've got better players sitting on the bench than a guy that's getting 90 minutes a game, and I don't get it. And we leak goals, and I don't see where the positive. I don't see what we gain from playing him at left back. I would rather us try and get like a decent, honest shift for Tony Ralston and give him the opportunity at least to see if he can outplay Greg Taylor. I've confidence that I think he will, that he could make that position his own. And right now, I think it's laziness. It just seems lazy. Oh, well, we can't try anything else because Burnaby was shite. Nah, I don't know, Rodgers, man, be creative. You got better players in your team. Anybody,
try a different system, different formation,
convert somebody to a left back. We tried to convert that boy that's playing with Fleetwood now, Bosun Little.
He's playing midfield for them now, I believe. Yeah,
he's playing midfield and he's ripping it up. And that's the sort of thing. If you get boys like Lagerbielke or whatever can play pace and he's left-sided, how have we not brought him in left back, or Kobayashi, or anybody that's got a football brain, an engine, and a bit of physicality that can defend and maybe stop us getting, goals scored at our back left-hand post? That's basically what we asked for, and I just think we've been really negligent in addressing that. And it just so happens to be that Greg Taylor, and it just shows you it's the wrong solution. It's no the answer.
And now we've put ourselves in a position where if Greg Taylor was to get injured or suspended at any point during the next 8 games, what do we do then? Because we don't have another left back, it seems, because Mitchell Frame's name has came up, Graham Tyrrell's brought him up. Yes, that 10-15 minute cameo he got against Feyenoord, he did look pretty good, but he's never been seen since. He's one of those ones that he got just based on some token minutes. Now, the boy Kelly, who's obviously the midfielder, he seems to be sticking around the first team. There seems to be something there. But again, it's like, well, that's a midfielder. But yeah, the left-back position concerns me because, Greg Taylor, if he's the only option we've got, if he does get injured, what do you do with that? What do you do there? So, Bernabei's now out the door. It looks like Liam Scales isn't going to play at left-back, it seems, no matter what, no matter how many times we've said it. So, yeah, but hopefully, I say hopefully we don't have to cross that bridge, but again, this is where we are. And there was a comment earlier on, Graham Tyrrell said that he says, if we're left with Taylor as the best option we've got, that's a sad state of affairs. But yes, that is where we find ourselves. But it is. It's a Friday night tradition here on the bus. It is bus heritage now. Liam versus Greg. It's always on every Friday. We've got to do it.
My mission in life, Phil, was to be on tea time with Taylor. I mean, come on. Somebody there's got, somebody, right? See if you can get me on tea time with Greg. That'd be brilliant.
I'll pitch that one to him. But there was a name that you mentioned quite a few times there, and Joe Henry's coming in with the big question: is Hatate fit? Now, as far as we're led to believe, Hatate has been back in training and has been playing some bounce games. They have arranged a few bounce games over this international break at Lennox Town, so he has got some sort of minutes in the league. But of course, a bounce game is very, very different from a competitive game, at the end of the day. But still some sort of minutes anyway. But yeah, this game again is a huge concern because I hate to keep coming back to the pitch, but you've seen what they can do to players in the past. But we're in a position now where Hatate, we need to be going to Ibrox next week with a full quota of players available to us, the strongest possible hand that we can have. Hatate has to come in also and hit the ground running. There is a lot of expectations on this guy. I have noticed a real trend throughout a lot of Celtic podcasts over the last few weeks about Hatate's return. There's a lot of people out there on different shows. And I mean, obviously, I understand why, because he has got a reputation, he is a good player, he's shown it. But a lot of people seem to be really pinning their hopes on that, Hatate's back. If Hatate, is back, they're basically saying this is it, this is the game-changing moment for us this season, this is what's going to be the catalyst to win us the league. But if Hatate does not hit the ground running, I worry for these people's mental health because honestly, they are pinning everything on this guy. I mean, I hope to God he comes in and he absolutely nails it. But of course, from the few fleeting appearances we saw of him this season, and let's not forget, there was that really strange ordeal at the start of the season where it just felt like Brendan Rodgers just didn't rate him for whatever reason. The whole thing with David Turnbull getting starts, and then Hatate did finally get a start against Aberdeen, got injured, comes back from an injury, scored against Kilmarnock, a really good goal. His only goal this season, got injured not long after that. He then had the game again. He played against St Mirren just before the January break, and again, copped an injury there. So it's just that the guy cannot catch a break. But yeah, a lot of people do seem to be pinning their hopes, Liam, on that Hatate is going to come back. He's going to win us the league. So I hope to God that does happen. I really do. But can we be pinning all our hopes on him at this stage?
I don't know. It depends on Rodgers. Does Rodgers know how to play Hatate? And he proved it at the beginning of the season. No, he didn't. He didn't really have a clue. Same way Martin O'Neill had a blind spot with Moravcik at times. He didn't know how to put Moravcik into a team and where to put him. That sort of creativity. It's rare you get a guy like that. You got to play him like a Modric type role, I think, But I don't know, like, I hate when he goes up against Lundstrom. Like, he always, like, that guy just a hatchet man, always evil intent lurking about him, I want to see signs that both Kyogo and Hatate can, obviously with protection for the referees and stuff, but actually stand up and, like, take a wee bit of a batter and then keep getting up like the guys like Modric and fucking Deco and guys like that used to do, I'm looking forward to Hattie coming back. He was one of my favourite players, that, and I think he's the one that needs to be given the free role to be creative. And I think that's why maybe having somebody that's a bit more defensively minded at the left back would give him the freedom to go and create. And if it doesn't work out, there's somebody behind him that's going to be able to sweep up and mess up a bit. But the stuff that we gain with him moving forward and making quick transitions and also looking for that through ball for maybe Kyogo, Maeda, Kuhn, Yang, whoever's on that wing, I think that just adds so much to us. I think it'll bring other players in him better as well. Hopefully it'll bring out O'Reilly. He's been very passive the last couple of games as well. And sometimes just playing with better players and seeing that bit of extra effort and football and stuff on the pitch will inspire you to lift your game as well. So I'm hoping he does that. I think it'll be, good for the whole team to see him come back. Yeah. But again, sparingly. Get this game won, get it won early, and then wrap everybody up and bubble wrap for next week.
Oh, definitely. And a comment here from the Slebering Cabbage, and I hope he's not slebering, but this prediction, he says Celtic will finish this season at least 6 points ahead. I bloody well hope so. I really, really do. But yeah, a lot of people coming in with a very similar mindset to me, because the last time I was on the show a week back on Tuesday, me and Russell did a show, we spoke about Hatate's return, and I was on my own personal feeling was I wouldn't even risk him even for 5 minutes on Sunday, because again, this pitch and that style of play Livingston have got, a lot of big bruisers in that team. I would just be worried he comes back. I know it sounds crazy to just throw him in there at Ibrox, but I feel like he's the type of player that might thrive in that type of environment, because we've got here Patrick McLaughlin saying Hatate won't start on that dodgy pitch. Chris M saying caution with Rio, playing him against Livi is sabotage at most 15 to 20 minutes against him. Shell is coming in saying I wouldn't risk Hatate on that pitch. And Ian McIntosh saying Brendan likes possession, Hatate takes risks. Is Hatate coachable? They'll say the last time I was on the show with Russell, I said at the very, very end of the show that it's time for Brendan to start taking some risks as well, because he's in a position where he's got to, maybe Hatate isn't his cup of tea necessarily, and that might explain why he wanted to go with a more safer, conservative option of David Turnbull at the start of the season. But we're in a position now where, especially that Rangers game next week, where it will be on a, not a plastic pitch, big park. This is the type of game that I think Hatate, regardless of, he's not played any competitive games well, but I think if you can get him in that game next week, maybe get 60 minutes out of him, if he's effective in those 60 minutes that he's on the park, then that could be one of those moments you look back on at the end of the season, Liam, and go, that was a good move there. But yeah, Hatate, and Ian McIntosh going, do you think that's maybe been the problem with Brendan and his standoff with Hatate? Or was it maybe just into the contract status? Because this is easy to forget. He is one of those players that signed the big contract extension this season, but because he's hardly been around, I totally forgot about that. I heard it mentioned on another podcast recently, and I was like, oh, I saw he did. I completely forgot, because again, out of sight, out of mind. He's been injured for so long this season. Forgot he did that. But yeah, do you think what Ian's saying there's got a bit of, substance to it, that's maybe one of the reasons why Brendan's just like, he can't coach him to the way he wants him to play?
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen people commenting that yeah, Brendan does like defensive players that don't take risks and boring. And what you'll get for Hatate is you could get that 40-yard screamer against Hearts, or you could get him unlocking defences and curling it in the corners, or you could get, the wee through balls to Kyogo and that. And that's no boring, and I think we need a player that takes risks. That's what we have, but guys that will take risks with talent, guys that take risks that know what they're doing. You know, we got plenty of, Palmer takes a lot of risks, but they don't really work too well. You know, Ryan Chris was running at people with balls when he used to play for us. Another risk taker. But just very low output. So we need guys that can take risks. That most of the time, when they do take a risk, it's a piece of brilliance or magic that we talk about that turns a game or something. And right now, Hatate. And again, he could come back and he's really, really quiet tomorrow, and we don't know what sort of player we're going to get back here. But the player that left is the player that got injured that was just breaking at the Japanese team. He was doing well and he was taking risks. Back to that Real Madrid game, that was some ball, But there was stuff like that you see that he can do. That just puts you in another, okay, this guy is a different level. There's something special about him. And it's up to Rodgers and the coaches there to sort of identify what that is and where that shows up and what time it shows up in the game, where that becomes, our breaking point. This is where we crush him because we've got this extra bit that, again, might be in the beginning of the game, just overall him, Try and get these guys to start start at 100 and not build themselves into the game. Just come out attacking, and that just means have 3 or 4 direct route balls that you're just going to keep playing to see if you can wear them down really quick. At least make them tackle you and get early fouls, early cards, that sort of stuff. But take the sting out of them right away, and I think Hatate is one of the players that can help do that.
Yeah, he definitely can. Here's something I'm just going to throw in as a suggestion. We're talking earlier on about the full-back issues, or most particularly the left-back issue. Remember there was a game last season against St Johnstone at Christmas time when Hatate played at full-back and scored twice that day. I think he was playing right-back, in fairness, but am I right in saying, and again, this could be because out of sight, out of mind, and I've just forgotten, Hatate's left-footed, isn't he? I'm pretty sure he's predominantly left-footed.
Hatate came to us as an option for left back.
I remember that being suggested because that's where I was going with that point. But I was like, I'm sure that was suggested, and I'm like, I know a lot of fans will still have PTSD about that time. Callum McGregor played at left back at Ibrox, under Brendan Rodgers, and McGregor also played left back a couple of times under Lennon as well. You don't want to be having creative players playing out there, but as I said earlier on, if Greg Taylor was to get injured or something in this run-in, we ain't got many options for fullback, but I do remember a game last season where Hatate did play at fullback and did actually score twice that day. We beat St Johnstone at Christmas time.
He was man of the match and he was brilliant. I think both Ralston and Johnson, maybe Johnson wasn't here yet, or he just came and he came in at Ibrox. It might be the game before that. And Hatate did right back and he was phenomenal. Yep. And he was defensively. If you look at it as well, it's like Taylor physically, no about his stature, just by the sort of doesn't have the strength to push guys off. Like Jeremy Frimpong's the same size. Guys like Bello played for Real Madrid. They're all wee guys, but they could move guys out the way, or they had a smartness about them that they didn't have to get involved in a physical confrontation where size was going to be what defined it. They had different skills of ways to either getting under your skin, and bothering you that, or just so much football skills. You can just trap the ball, move it really quickly before all the guys are still on their heels. So, I don't know.
I think. Well, we've got a bit of a conflict in the chat as well. Because I asked earlier on about what foot is Hatate strongest with. So Graham Martin is convinced it's right-footed. Says he was right back that day, which I do remember was right full-back he played. But he says he's right-footed. But then Chris M comes out and says Hatate is left-footed. Motherwell last season drag back goal, case in point. So I think it's left. But either way, and I do agree with this point that Graham Tyrrell said Taylor's not getting dropped. Yes, it was just mostly wishful thinking. And if he does get injured, it'll probably be Ralston or Frame. You're probably right. Because ideally, ultimately, you don't want a creative player like Hatate having to play there. Because you look back at what happened to Callum McGregor years ago under Brendan. He was stifled playing there. It's like you want these guys to be in the middle of the park where they can really influence the game. But I'm thinking more in an emergency situation where we are rife with injury again and we need somebody that can competently play there for a game, then it might be an option. But hopefully we don't have to even contemplate that happening. That just doesn't even happen. We just have a nice clean bill of health from now to the end of the season. fingers crossed. The way things have gone this season, let's just hope we're finally over it. We could just get through to the end without a long-term injury happening. But of course, let's continue on the midfield then. Matt O'Reilly has been a contentious point since the turn of the year. I've speculated, and I know that Mark's definitely picked up on that point. I felt at the time, did the Atletico Madrid rumour, apparently going there, getting rejected, did it turn his head? Was he, sulking about it? I didn't think he was the type of player that would. I just think he's just been victim of the team's sort of up and down roller coaster type performances where you just don't know what you're going to get. But that first half of the season, I mean, the form wasn't even great in the first half of the season at times, but he was still light years better than anyone else in that team for that first half of the season. But then it's just dropped off. But again, we're now staring down the barrel of a potential double here. It's like, come on, Matt, how much motivation do you need? You know it needs to be done now. We know that you're capable of this. You know that you can do it. The manager knows you can do it. It's time that you just, found that form again just for these last 8 games. You'll get his move in the summer. You'll head off to pastures new, I'm sure, as gutting as it will be, but that is just sadly the world we live in. But this is the time, Matt O'Reilly, time to stand up and be counted.
I watched that Guy Ritchie thing on Netflix, The Gentleman, and every time I'm looking at that guy, I'm like, fuck, that guy's a spitting image of Matt O'Reilly, so you're cheering for him that wee bit extra. I don't know, he's hot and cold. I mean, it took a long time to score a goal last year, wasn't it? I mean, this year, it looked like a great start because he had such a, it was great for setting up goals and assists and all that. He seems to have lost some of the stuff that he was doing that made him really good. He had that wee sort of pass that he was getting on the edge of the box where he was building up relationships with some of the wingers where they'd pass him and he'd just do that wee stabby ball 6 feet into the penalty box that guys like Kyogo and Jota and that were running onto. So he seems to have missed that. So it's like, if we had so many wingers right now that he doesn't, he's lost any sort of chemistry with them, where he has to build that back up again. I don't know. To me, he's very, very hot and cold, and you never know which one you're going to get. So, but even when he's not performing, he's still no the worst in the team. He gets involved. He's not bad at getting a tackle in here and there, running with guys and that. But if he's not making the big Hollywood play, you just don't see him, right? All his stuff is like Hollywood, the goals, the passes, that sort of stuff, and just got to give him his Hollywood moment. Will it come in a plastic pitch? No.
Well, the big concern for me is, and I think this summed up the whole second half of the season for O'Reilly, was we played Livingston a few weeks ago in the Cup. The second goal we lost, he was faffing about on the ball in the middle of the park, lost it, and then just very nonchalantly just sort of tracking back, and Livingston ended up scoring a pretty good goal off it. The boy bent it into the far corner from just on the edge of the area. But yeah, it was goal came from him losing the ball, and it's like, man, see, at this stage when you lose the ball, you've got to just, just hell for leather to get it back, because again, we don't have time for passing just now. What we're looking at, there's so much on the line this season with this, and I know we will talk about it, I'm sure, in the summer to great length about the financial side of things again and how this board are performing, because we can't. It's not so much that what we're going to do with the money, because we know what the Celtic board are going to do with the money. The bigger concern is what the other team across the city are going to do with the money if they get a hold of it. That is the big concern from our point of view, because we're already sitting on a massive plethora of cash anyway. So obviously we want to make sure that they don't get access to a big plethora of cash, these new riches for the Champions League. So that really is what's on the line. We have to stop them from winning that league. We have to make sure that we are in the Champions League next season, because obviously the coefficient is affected for the next, not this coming summer, but I think the season after that is going back to the Scottish team has to qualify again, and it's a total lottery, that one, when it comes to our record in Champions League qualifiers. So this is a guaranteed one. We're getting into the Champions League automatically, so we cannot afford to be allowing them to win this title. And say if we can make it a double as well, then happy days, a wee bonus at the end of it. Another thing I just want to pick up as well, midfield. Again, maybe I'm looking too far ahead to Ibrox. I've seen people in the chat saying that, but we need to concentrate on this game first. But they were hoping to have a full quota of players heading to Ibrox. But it's good news that Callum McGregor looks like he'll be back very soon as well, because I think it's sort of underwhelming, I think be the best word, Liam, that his play's been this season. He's definitely not been the best McGregor that we've seen, but there's usually different circumstances to that. Got to remember he also has played a lot of football in his career. He was one of these players that played a lot of games in calendar years. Maybe it's starting to catch up with him a wee bit. But yeah, there's a lot of talk that he will be available for when we go to Ibrox next week. I wouldn't expect him to play this weekend. I believe the plan is that he'll be kept away from this one. Again, there's that plastic pitch again, the horror show of a pitch that it is. You don't want to take chances with him, but yeah, it's good news that he's back as well for this title run in.
I think I agree with a lot of the guys in the bus here and in the chat yourselves and that McGregor's been poor this year, but he has had 2 really, really exceptional games, and both of them are against Rangers.
Yeah.
And so just for that alone, that's what you want to see. I mean, probably the only bad game he's ever had against Rangers when we played him at left back. He's a player that shows up well for the games, and I think that gives him a focal point of being a captain. I think he understands his role more than anybody in that part, and sees that as a chance to reset, reboot, whatever he has to do to get back to the Callum McGregor that's respected, and the guy that came back with a mask that led the team, despite having a fractured jaw. We forget about that guy as well. He's still in there. And so he's got a Scotland team that's going to Germany as well. This would be a good game to give Callum a wee bit of a run in this game against all, but if we can get this league, this win tomorrow, and give Callum a wee bit of a run tomorrow, and then just unleash him on next week against them.
Indeed. Now, let's talk about the wingers, because that's been a contentious point. Obviously, Brendan, we've suggested on the bus, maybe change to a different formation that doesn't use wingers, seeing as they've been so bloody useless this season. But recently, we've seen a few bright sparks. Nicholas Kuhn, who was definitely written off quite quickly, which football fans all across the country are guilty of that, after a few so-so performances, writing off, especially with the track record we've had with signings in recent times. You can understand why a lot of Celtic fans are kind of like, not sure about this one. But it was actually the Livingston game in the Scottish Cup just a few weeks ago that I felt he was, okay, now we're starting to see something here. I thought the ball he played for Maeda's first goal that day just pinged it over the defence, right into the path of Maeda, who didn't have to break his stride at all, put it away to make it 1-0 that day. But I thought he was fantastic in that game, and it's like, I think since then he's put in some decent performances. So it's good to see that we've got a winger that's actually in some kind of form. And maybe we were a bit too quick to write him off. But as I say, you can see from our point of view, Celtic fans' point of view, why we would write players off so quickly, because our track record right now with a lot of signings is so bad. But looks like there's some encouragement there, and hopefully tomorrow. On Sunday, he can continue terrorising Livingston like he did a few weeks ago, Liam.
I think it's every opportunity to him. I think Maeda, Kyogo. I see it Kuhn, Kyogo, Maeda up front. Yang, I like Yang as a player in that, but I don't know. I think he can come on either side, right? So I think it's just to see, okay, can we keep the consistency going? To get can Maeda take them on, and if so, I think Kuhn looks like a player, but so did Yang. Yang was looking really good as well. They both seem to have got hot at the same time. And I don't know if that's something that's happening in training or just like a new, like is a different role. Did they unburden them with a couple of the things that they were told to do, stick here, stick there? Like, have they been given a wee bit more freedom to create? I mean, I don't know. Maybe Rodgers came in and overcoached a lot of this team. We always assumed that Ange was like the predominant coach. It was, here's your role, here's your own. And maybe he wasn't that. Maybe he was just a bit more free form, where players more. He always talks about players expressing themselves. You don't hear Rodgers talking about that. And so maybe some of those, maybe it's just one off where he's just taking off some of the clampers right now, and people are getting a chance to do what they do, what they would have, the way Ange would have managed them or so. So I think you're seeing that in Yang and Kuhn right now. And I think, it's just a good problem to have. I mean, James looked good when he came on as well. I mean, here's a guy who can play on a plastic pitch against Livingston if you need somebody to come on, just to sort of, like I always remember that goal he scored in the semi-finals when we went and we won our first trophy against, I think it was St. Johnstone we played.
St. Johnstone, yep.
And Greg, James Forrest came on and scored that goal and that as well. So he's another guy we could rely on tomorrow as well. As Brendan says, best winger in the club.
Best winger in the club, yes, indeed, he did say that. Funny enough, there was a game in Ange's first season when we finally broke the Livingston hoodoo, and James Forrest got a surprising start that day because he again featured for a wee while and he actually scored and played really well that day. And as much maligned as James Forrest can be amongst the Celtic support, and I'm not advocating that he is the answer, I do think he has had his time. But at this point in current time where we find ourselves, an experienced head like him who's been, through it all, to say the least, because the amount of trophies he's won, the amount of title races he's been in, it's probably quite valuable to have somebody with that experience. And yeah, you're right. And it's maybe one of these conversations some fans aren't ready to have right now. But James Forrest, in his recent performances, since he's been making cameo appearances coming on, he's actually played all right. He's actually been fine. He's not been terrible. I say I think Forrest should be moved on when it's possible to do so in summer. So thank him for all he's done. But at the time being, he's available, and if he's able to put in a shift and contribute towards us winning the double, then brilliant, ideal. So hopefully, if he does play a part at any point, then yeah, he can continue his recent form because I say he's looked lively. Although the whole line about best winger at the club, I think that was just the usual Brendan hyperbole, just to sort of make him feel 10 feet tall, just to big him up a wee bit. But also, Liam, I need to bring this up about the because obviously, Liam, you're a man of taste, a man of fashion, as we can tell. What do you think of the new and improved blonde hair Maeda? It was weird enough that he grew his hair out in the first place. And my God, it grew pretty quick, to be fair. But he's now dyed it blonde, rocking around like he's a Slim Shady from the early 2000s here. But yeah, blonde dyes in Maeda. That'll take a bit of getting used to, won't it?
Very Slim Shady, but it's also, do you remember Japanese striker Ito? He did that during well, where he came out and he was one of the first Japanese players I've seen that dyed his hair blonde. So I don't know. Dyson, you ever seen when he was getting Japanese Player of the Year and he'd be full on like Japanese traditional garment? It was all black and it just looked cool as fuck, and he's always got a bit of Bond character about him, like he's a bit
odd job. Put the bowler hat on. Odd job. He's got the same facial hair.
So I hope this might be something that just maybe it changes him and he becomes known as that prolific guy that scores the Bond guy rather than the bald guy, give a chance to reinvent himself. All right, then come out, be that flair player we always know you were, and the guy tripping there as he arse sometimes, or laughing at us, 2 feet away from the ball. But I don't know, he's a character. And we love characters, and I think Maeda, such a family guy as well, It's like you always say every time you see him, it was with his Waynes and all that. And supposedly that's the reason his daughter doesn't like his hair. She likes one of the other Japanese players that's got blonde, long hair. And so he's doing it for her. And it just seems like I have fun. But you actually see how young he is as well when his hair grows back in. To me, Maeda's always 32 or something, but he's only in his early 20s. It just makes him a lot older than he is. So we'll see what we get. Maybe we'll get our Jota back, we'll get the Jota and start to the 18-yard box and that.
Perhaps he will, because it's the thing is, his record against Livingston, obviously bagged a hat-trick against them recently, but on recent trips to the Tony Macaroni, he has actually scored a few. He's had a brilliant performance in the game early in the season where we beat them and we were down to 10 men for most of the game because Joe Hart got sent off. Dyson Maeda scored a brilliant goal at the end of the game. He just bent it into the top corner with his left foot from outside the area. And after the game, Brendan Rodgers was very complimentary about him, saying, "You're never down to 10 men when you've got Dyson Maeda on the park because of the work that he puts in." And he had a great game that day. And I say the game we beat Livingston in Ange's first season, so the one that James Forrest scored in, Maeda scored that day as well. So he has got a quite decent record against Livi, so hopefully it can continue. So he got a hat-trick against him recently, so he'll be buzzing with confidence. Although in typical Dyson Maeda fashion that day. He did score a hat-trick, which was brilliant in itself, but he could have easily got about 4 or 5. There was one in particular that zipped across the box. He's obviously taking his eye off the ball at the last second. Of course, valuable lesson in football, you never take your eye off the ball. And he's basically swung at fresh air and it's went right through his legs, right in front of an empty net. It's like he could have just tapped it away, but got his hat-trick anyway. But hopefully he can continue that for him. And I say new and improved. Dyson Maeda with his blonde hair. We'll see how that goes. And of course, up front, this is always an interesting one because again, in your head, you always think big hat-trick men at Livingston, big physical team, got to play Ida because obviously he is a physical unit himself. But Kyogo has obviously played against them plenty of times and he's had a good record against them. He scored in the game. I remember there was a game last season as we're heading towards the run-in where we beat them at Almondvale, and everyone again going into the game was thinking, oh, must start because physical unit. Kyogo played that day, 5 minutes into the game, 6 minutes, he scored. Not only that, it was a header that he scored as well against these big units at Livingston. So again, I think Kyogo's more than capable. He's good at stretching the game, obviously, because all the runs he makes. But of course, the key is, Liam, when he's making these runs, the players on the ball have to make sure they're looking for him. Because honestly, God, I've seen it so many times this season. You don't maybe see it on the TV cameras, but he makes all these runs, and the amount of times he throws his hands up in the air in frustration because it's sideways passing, sideways all the time. And it's like, he's making all these runs and pulling these players out of position. We have to read the runs better because he's crucial crucial to the team's success, and he's ruthless when he gets a chance in front of goal. So I would fully expect it to be Kyogo to start on Sunday, and hopefully he can bag a few goals, get his confidence sky high before Ibrox next week.
Definitely keep him in, get the confidence up right now, because like the last game as well, it was offside, but he did one of the goals that he scored when he first came to us. It was like first 3 or 4 goals where there's a ball comes flying across the box and he jumps in and chested it in. And he did that again in the last game and it was offside, but it just shows you, it doesn't really matter. He's a wee guy and that he scored goals with his head. He gets in there. I think we just had very, very poor wingers when he was having his drought. And it wasn't so much just a drought that there just wasn't people getting the balls toward him or the one he's seeing or identifying him as the danger he is and trying to do too much yourself to, who knows, get Rodgers' attention, get the fans on their side. All these new players that come in as wingers, I don't think that they respected the value of what Kyogo brings to the team and his movement and the pace and the get back and how much that creates for them. And so now I think they get a chance to train with him every day, moving the ball with him and all that. Hopefully those sort of patterns are going to show up and people will see them a lot quicker now, that when he's off, you've now got an instinct and intuition of where he's going to go. So I think definitely Kyogo to start, and then you better go on Ida, or feel bad for wasn't he playing too bad before Ida came in? I don't see a big difference between the two of them. I think Ida got our attention because he could take a penalty when we had people that couldn't hit the ball. But came for open play other than that one game where he scored the 2 goals, and there were 2 really, really good goals, the header and then the other came for that went inside the left-hand post or right-hand post. I've not seen anything for him that suggests he's that much better than O. And so I'd rather see, if we get up, rather than seeing Ida, and then maybe see what O's got. He's went away. He's trained with the Korean team. I think he played in the Asian Cup, and we've not seen him. And a lot of them respected that Korean team as well. And he talked about Son and all that, taking him under his stuff. I'd be like to see if he can come and play any of that at Celtic, because he's the one player we own. Ida was just to sort of help us in case we couldn't get it for Kyogo. So let's see what we've got, and maybe I'd like to see O get a wee bit of a game, come on for a cameo, especially if we're up a few goals, see what he can do.
Indeed, we'll see what happens because Ida's obviously on loan. Will we actually look to sign him permanently in the summer? On current evidence, I don't think so, and there was no option to buy anyway, so what's that all about? Who knows? But again, when we come to transfers in the summer, I'm sure we'll be going crazy with that. That'll be another saga itself over the whole course of the summer of the activity we do. But yeah, we'll definitely be looking at strikers, because I do think his run his race at Celtic, I think he'll be one of the ones that will be on the chopping block come the summertime. I say we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But hey, again, another one, if he can contribute, if he can bring something in this crazy title run-in that we've got ahead of us, then all the better. Before we go, obviously, we will do our predictions then. So, Liam, after all that, how do you think the game's going to pan out on Sunday?
I think we'll batter them. I think what we'll do is, I think Rangers are going to drop points on Saturday. I think they're going to drop at least 1 point.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Right.
And then I think we're going to come out and we're going to batter them and we're going to show intent. Somebody in the chat, I've been lurking while we're talking, says we'll be 6 points ahead by the end of the...
Did say that, 6 points, yep.
I'd love to see that. And this is the time now. Okay, there's no excuses, right? We've had so many letdowns and so many false dawns of this team that, all right, we seem to have turned a corner, turned a page. All right, how many opportunities do you want? This is storybook stuff. This is Brendan defining the narrative or whatever he talked about, that we're going to tell the story. Okay, page is open. This is you go there, you set your intention, and you show everybody what we've got. That when we come in, we're a full team at Ibrox next week. We're going to absolutely demolish them. But first, let's get guys out of the way first and show our intent that we are a good team. This is Livingston. This isn't Hearts or anybody that we're playing. This is a good chance for us to sort of all right, let's show how good we are. And even without Rodgers, date for a gaffer, whatever, he'll be in amongst the Green Brigade with 2 flares in each hand. So, he'll be well taken care of. Fans will back loving him again.
Yeah, well, say at the start of the season, he did stand in front of Celtic Park and say, for all those people who doubt me, I'll see you here in May. Well, we're getting close to May, Brendan, so yeah, now is the time to deliver that. And Joe Henry coming in with the craziest prediction night. Taylor to score a hat-trick. There we go. Yeah. Taylor hat-trick. He did score at Livingston last season. He did score one from outside the area. A few other predictions coming in. 4-0. We've got 3-1. Steve will come in saying that. 2-0. 6-0. Another 3. Another 2. I'll go for a routine 2-0 win. I think we'll just go in there and get the job done and just control the game after that. No unnecessary risks. Just get our noses in front, add a second one, and then just, as you said earlier on, wrap those players up in a bubble wrap, pretty much. Forget cotton wool, bubble wrap for this one. Need to get through, make sure when we go to Ibrox next week, we are in a strong position. And of course, we'll be back next Friday to talk all about that. Oh, the nerves will be kicking in then, because obviously the next game is always the biggest one, but this one is huge. This one really could be deemed title decider at this stage, even though there'll still be, after it's still 6 games to go, but it's all on the line next week. But I see we're in a position where even if we draw next week against them, providing that the results, they win tomorrow and we win at the weekend and it's the status quo, even a draw next week, it puts us in a position where I think Rangers need to win, while we don't need to, but we should definitely be playing to win. You can never ever go into these games and play for a draw. It's never a wise idea to do that. But of course, we'll cross that bridge next week when we come to it. I'm sure there'll be plenty of content coming up over the next week in the build-up to it. We usually do ramp it up a bit more when there is one of those games coming along against Rangers. So yeah, you can of course keep on top of that, folks, if you haven't done so yet by hitting the subscribe button. And with all that said and done, we're just coming up to the hour mark. It's been another Friday feeling in the books, and we will head off now. And enjoy the game on Sunday, folks, if you're going through, because there'll be a huge Celtic contingent. It's pretty much a sort of de facto home game for Celtic, because Livingston give us pretty much the entire stadium, because let's be honest here, they don't have a lot of fans. So yes, they'll be making sure they make as much money as possible through away tickets. So if you're going through to Livingston for the game, hopefully it's an enjoyable one. And of course, we'll be talking on Sunday about the victory. I believe the plan is there will be a Sunday Blether. David Logue, obviously, he runs the Sunday Blether. I will converse with him. I believe we will be doing one, because I think it's every 2 weeks at the moment the way his schedule is. He's try and keep that up. So he didn't do one last week. So we're hoping to do one this week. And yeah, we'll hopefully have PMP as well. That'll be Russell and Terry, if Terry's available. But yeah, just say hit that subscribe button, folks, and hit the bell notification. You'll be notified when we are on live. And with all that said and done, Liam, you enjoy the rest of your day, because it's obviously still what,
Beautiful.
2
3
o'clock. Aye, so you're 8 hours behind us. Although over in America, or over in North America, the clocks have changed, haven't they? Because they changed this weekend here.
Oh, it's weird. It's been about 3 weeks. So
Aye, we're a bit behind that.
Aye.
Strange. But yeah, we do. Just remember that, folks, as well. Remember to change your clock as well this weekend, because you might end up sleeping in, missing the game if you're an hour out. So yeah, just make sure you do that. But yeah, folks, we're heading off now. So yeah, enjoy the rest of your weekend, whatever you're up to, and we'll see you on the next one. Catch you then.